Amadeus Active Acoustics.
Welcome back to this tutorial series and the last video, where we are going to do EASE-5 simulations to evaluate the planning we did in the previous video. So in this video I will stick to a simulation process presented also in the paper, but I'll go through it real quick just for you that it's easier to follow along. So the initial step is to group the loudspeakers in processing blocks and set audience areas according to the acoustically different areas. The next step is to evaluate if the speaker type is well chosen. So three adjacent speakers of a group need to provide at least 90 dB on the respective audience area. We choose the broadband and signal crest of 12 dB and no extra headroom. So the next step then is to set the levels of the speaker groups so that like each processing block produce the same level of direct SPL on the respective audience area. We do that to get reasonable results in the next step, because when we try to evaluate if the layout is well planned, all the measures are based on DSPL considerations. So that's why we don't want that one processing block is like way louder than others, because that would lead to not really reasonable results. So then we have a look at the direct SPL, the loudspeaker overlap or the loudspeaker density, and we set some values that we want to achieve. The last step, of course, is that if there are some trouble spots, rethink or overthink the design and do some adjustments and go through the simulation again. Alright, so let's have a look at the model again. And I already created some processing blocks. So my first processing block was the main row, which are the wall speakers for the main room here. The second row is then the second row of wall speakers, obviously. Then we have a balcony row here, which are the wall speakers for the balcony area. Then we have the ceiling processing block, which are the ceiling loudspeakers for the main room. Then we have the under balcony ceiling speakers, which are underneath the balcony, and the balcony ceiling, which are for the audience above or located on the balcony. Alright, so let's check if the speaker type we chose is adequate. So for that I already did a standard mapping simulation. I chose 3 adjacent speakers of the ceiling in the main room, and here is the direct SPL broadband. And we can see that in the respective area, which now would be this area here, we definitely fulfill the criteria with more than 90 dB direct SPL. And I also did that with 3 adjacent speakers from the second row. And also for that we fulfill the criteria with more than 90 dB. And yeah, so now your task would be to do that for every group. I already did that, so I skipped that in this video so it doesn't get too long. So if you checked whether the speaker type is adequate, you can use these simulations also for the next step in the simulation process, which is leveling the processing blocks. So when you do this speaker type check with the 3 adjacent speakers, you'll come to the conclusion that the 3 adjacent speakers of the second row produce the lowest direct SPL on the respective audience area compared to the other processing blocks, which is why this is now our reference direct SPL. So what I would do now is remember this direct SPL value of the second row, which is 96.84 dB, and then go to the others, other simulations. I only have the one for the ceiling here right now, but you can check that and look what the maximum direct SPL is here, which is 97.58 dB. So it's around about 1 dB difference between those two processing blocks. So I would go here, go to the ceiling and say, hello ceiling speakers, please stick to a gain of -1 dB. So that this process, the ceiling processing block and the second row processing block, approximately produce the same direct SPL on this audience area here. And so your task could be now to do that with every processing block. I did it already, and from that on I can say that the gain for the balcony ceiling has to be -8. For the balcony row, the gain has to be -2 dB. For the main row, I want a -6 dB gain, and for the under balcony, I want a gain of -8 dB. So with that in hand, we can go to the simulation again. Of course, we have to refresh the room mapping and recalculate the map, and in this last mapping we have to do, we'll choose all loudspeakers and we choose all audience areas. All right, and yeah, so now the simulation runs, and yeah, I'll be back when it's done. So the simulation is done. Let's have a look at the results. So I chose the direct SPL at first with frequencies from 1K to 10K, as already said. And now if we just check the results regarding the values we defined in the paper, we can see that those are fulfilled for the direct SPL, since the standard deviation is below 1 dB and the difference between max and min value is less than 6 dB. So we can go to the loudspeaker overlap, where we said that we want to avoid areas with a loudspeaker overlap less than 3, since for overlaps less than 3, it indicates that in this area the energy of one speaker dominates compared to all the others. So that's why I took the green color to indicate that it's good when everything is higher than 3, and this is the case here. So this requirement is fulfilled as well. So we can step on to the last criteria, which is the loudspeaker density. For the loudspeaker density, we want to avoid areas with a value less than 2, and here we can see that there are indeed a few spots where the density is below 2, but really only a few ones, and especially here in the main room one can nicely see that the density is very good, and that the risk that there's a loudspeaker that disrupts the natural sound impression is low. Up here on the balcony, this little red area indicates that this loudspeaker might be a little too loud for this area here in front, but that's like such a small area, and I think that needs to be handled in the tuning process. And also up here on the balcony, the density seems to be pretty good. Yeah, so with these results in hand, I would say we don't need to consider any changes in the process of planning the loudspeaker layout. Again, I advise to have a look into the paper, because there the results are described more precisely, and there's also like a negative planning example also with simulation results, and that's pretty nice to get an impression of what results we want to see and how to interpret them. So I hope this tutorial series could help you to understand how we think to design a active acoustic system, and how we think it is possible to evaluate the planning by help of EASE-5 simulations. So if you have any questions, please contact us, or any advices as well. Thanks for your attention, and hopefully see you.
Amadeus Active Acoustics. Acoustic intelligence for the 21st century.